So I'm just going to create a little explosion prefab first, so that I've got something to instantiate and we can actually visually see what's happening when I start checking the 2D array and the positions of the 2D array. I can print out a debug, but I think I'll just start from the start by just popping some kind of prefab in there. Okay, so I'll create a basic object, create empty, and let's just call it explosion. Zero out the position. Now, what I'm going to do to this is I'm going to add a box collider, because if the player walks back into the explosion while it's happening, I want the player to be affected by that. I want it to be damaged. I want the player to lose a life. So we've got a box collider. Now, because everything's on a one-to-one basis, I'm going to set it to a trigger so that the player can walk into it, and then I'm going to create a script where the trigger checks if it is actually touching anything else. So I'm a bit worried because it's an exact scale of 1 to 1. If I instantiate this next to a steel box, there's a good chance that the trigger might detect that. So I'm just going to scale down the size of the collider just a little bit. There's no way that the player is going to be able to sneak around it, but just enough so it doesn't destroy something that's sitting next to it. I only want things that are in the exact same square to be destroyed. So there's the explosion, an empty game object with a box collider that's set to trigger and scaled to just below 1. Okay, now let's just set up a bit of a graphic so we can see what's happening here. Game object. Likewise, zero that out. Just going to be the blast graphics. I might make a particle effect too. Now, I'll keep it so thick like that. Probably won't. I'm just going to lay a flat image on this. Something I prepared earlier. So what we got? Material wire square. I'm just going to give it this texture so that we can see it. Okay. Should alpha that out. Okay, I'm just having fun. Okay, and we'll make that a child of the explosion prefab. So there we have it. We have some kind of color there, and I could even muck around with a particle effect. Now, I only just started Unity just before Unity 3.5, so I was just starting to get my head around particle effects before they brought out the shuriken. I really haven't touched the shuriken, so I'm going to create a legacy particle object here, because it's the only thing I know how to make particles in. So to create a legacy particle explosion, we need some components. So it's effects, legacy particles, ellipsoid particle emitter, and then particle renderer, and then particle animator. And there it is. That is a legacy particle emitter all set up. Now, I need to give it a texture. Do that in the form. Oh no, it's material. I doubt it. Yep. Okay. So, yeah, we need to create a material with a shader, of course. So let's create material. Plane D comes from Unity. Put that, and of course the shader. The particles. Okay, let's just try particles additive. See what happens with that. Alright, so back to my explosion particle. Let's give it that material. Okay, it's not looking so flush at the moment. So first of all, I want it to auto-destruct, and I only want it to play one shot. And then I'm going to start on the same line. So in the Z, of course, everything's 0 on the Z. On the Y, make it something small, 0.1, 0.2. And the X is 0.5 to keep it in that range. Kind of. Probably bump these up a bit. Actually, before I do that, let's see if we can increase the size. Alright, let's try 0.2 to 0.5. And the bomb, how long does the explosion last? Alright, let's say from half a second to 1 second. That's kind of what I'm after. Probably push it forward a bit in front of the texture. There we go. Just something that we can see visually. Okay, I'm spending too much time on this. So make that a child of the explosion, and I should have a nice little explosion prefab. Okay, so let's make a prefab out of that and go back to the scene. Okay,